All right, what is up, everybody? We are back for another weekly Wednesday live Q&A. And this week we have a very special guest about to join us, Matt Jackson. So he'll be joining us just in a few minutes. And today what we're going to be talking about is our contest prep diets. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into there. And Matt is about to join us. Hopefully this works fantastically. There he is. There's the main man himself, Matt Jackson. So for those of you guys who do not know Matt, Matt is not only a contest prep coach, he's a promoter, and he is also a natural pro bodybuilder. So Matt, thank you very much for really being the one to volunteer to come on and be on my weekly Wednesday live Q&As. Matt always tunes in. He always watches them. I guess he liked them so much that he actually wanted to participate. So let's dive right into it, Matt. We had a first question roll in here, and I don't know if you saw the questions that rolled in on Facebook earlier, but Karen asked what our opinion is on HIIT, miss, or steady state cardio as a preference for a contest prep. So Matt, I'll go ahead and let you have the floor and take away on the cardio.
Do I get the full hour for this one, or?
No, I mean, preferably I'd like to get to more than one question.
I think the answer is it's all of them, right? But I think in certain situations, certain things could be better. And how I position, especially, personally, and for a lot of clients, is HIIT can be pretty taxing on the body, especially as we get further into prep. Trying to recover from maybe, say, and you're doing, say, 3 or 4 hit sessions a week, it can become, especially when the calories get low. So for the most part, I do utilize HIIT more maybe going into the start of prep, and especially in off season when you have calories, you have the energy, and you can recover. And I think miss and list, moderate pace, steady state cardio, and even lists like walking or elliptical machine. As you get further down the road into prep and recovery is just a bitch, I utilize those more as the preps go on. Not only for myself personally, but also for my clients as well. But I think
okay, yeah,
all
absolutely
have their place.
Yeah, for sure. And I think per the individual too, some people just can absolutely destroy themselves with HIIT and they feel fine. But if you give them, a 30-minute miss session, that actually fatigues them more than having them do, very high intense cardio for, short amounts of time.
Yep. And you're exactly right. I had a client, which I think she's crazy. Miss was just gassing her out. 30 minutes on the stair stepper killed her. So she prefers HIIT. So we gave her like 10 or 12 intervals, and she can do that every day and is fine.
Wow. Yep. Yeah, very good. And then like for me personally, at least for my clients, I do like to do a little bit of a mix. And I do kind of like you were saying, adjust it. I do like to start off with a little bit of HIIT at the beginning of the prep when calories are a little bit higher, like you said. But at the end, it does become like a fine dance of the mix that you want to incorporate. And it really coaching, it is going to come down to the individual. So I think that, if like your client, like you said, you have to just give her HIIT. And if she responds to it well, that's what you have to do. And as a coach, we have to be willing to listen to our client. And I had one of my clients tell me today, like she absolutely just hates cardio. She wants to limit as much as possible. So she said she would actually rather take away food. And I agreed. That's fine. I'm one of those people too. Right now in my first stage of this diet, I'm absolutely not going to be doing any cardio. And that's just my personal decision. But if somebody absolutely loves cardio and wants to eat more food, that's when you could give them more cardio and then just dial back on the food a little bit. Cool. All right. So the next question that we had roll in was from Bronwyn. She actually works with me. So she asked, what are the best foods to stick to during prep? The top types of protein and carbs. So Matt, once again, I'll let you have the floor and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents afterwards.
If we're talking best foods, right? I try to think that I position my overall, what side note, it's cool to see who's watching, by the way.
Yeah,
a lot of people
for
that
sure.
have no interest in bodybuilding are watching, which is cool. But getting back to the question, what, best foods to eat? I position the way I train and diet clients, nutrition standpoint, is if it fits your macros with a heavy dose of common sense. So if
Absolutely.
I allow clients to eat essentially whatever it is they want to eat, what they're best stick to, but then I'll say, okay, if I just don't see progress, visually, or they're having trouble on the scale, or whatever the case may be, if they're having trouble going to the bathroom or whatever, I'll say, just give me a fiber check.
Yep.
And typically, if those
Right.
things are stalling or they're not able to be regular, the fiber is dipping down into the low teens, or 10, 11, 12, then we know the quality of the food isn't there. So I don't know if there's a best food, and I saw the question. I don't know if there's a best food, but I think it's you got to have good quality, make sure the fiber is there, but then again, choose the foods that you're going to stick to eating. I mean, if you don't like chicken and broccoli, and that's all your meal plan gives you, you're not going to stick to that. So the best foods are the one you're going to adhere to on a 95, 100% basis through a prep.
Right, absolutely. And then I'll kind of bring it up here because I actually made a post about this. It wasn't related to Bronwyn's question, but I made a post about protein intake today, and kind of like what you're getting out of your protein sources. So at the end of the day, we do have to be careful on what types of protein that we're selecting. So for example, I mean, I think a lot of us, myself included, eat a lot of chicken. And although chicken is a very good protein source and it does have a high leucine content, it does get kind of boring to eat chicken every day, like you were saying, so foods that you can adhere to. So for tonight, for dinner, I did eat my 90-10 ground beef. I had meatloaf. But that does carry a lot more calories for a protein source than, let's say, chicken or tilapia or even whey protein, which I did mention in the post also. So what I'm getting at as far as like selecting protein is you do have to equate for the calories that you're intaking. So although I'm still eating, over 3,000 calories at this point, when my fat, dips more towards 50 grams, or God forbid if it gets under 50 grams, I'm not going to be eating 90-10 ground beef for my protein source. It's going to have to be a lot leaner sources. So I think it's, once again, it's going to be per the individual to make a informed decision on, what is the best protein source to pick per meal. Plus, you said it already, you use if it fits your macros, but, accounting to what foods are you going to be able to stick with, and, is it the right choice for that meal? And then we just had another one roll in here about protein. Bill asked, what about protein limiting factors, and what different types of protein? So I don't know exactly what he's talking about, limiting factors.
I don't.
Do you know what he's talking about?
I know Bill, and I don't know what he's talking about. But to add to, maybe he's talking about this, but I don't think he is. Bill, I don't quite understand your question, but I also think it's important from a best food standpoint of getting a variety. We're talking about protein, but run the gamut of protein sources: chicken, fish, turkey, tuna. Run the gamut, get your whole amino acid profile in there by not just eating one thing every day. Not only does it get boring, you may be missing out on certain aspects of those foods.
Right, absolutely. And I didn't make the post today, and I forgot who actually did. I think it was Thomas Monk. Actually, he works with Core too. He made a post just about varying all your foods, no matter what, because especially with people who are on like set meal plans. Although I don't do set meal plans, I'm not a big fan of them. And one of the reasons is, it does create food phobias, but it also creates vitamin and mineral deficiencies when you eat the same foods, day after day after day. You're going to have holes, in your nutritional program. Just because your macros are on point, that doesn't mean that your micros are going to be on point. And although that doesn't have a huge controlling factor over your progress, it's going to have some. So we want to definitely switch our foods throughout our contest prep.
Or life in general.
Or life in general, yeah. And I was kind of, just like when you were talking about that, it's almost like, when we're switching our foods, it's almost like I think about it as like our training program. we're going to want to change our exercises in our training program to stimulate the muscles differently. We want to change our foods just so we're, making sure we're getting all the vitamins and minerals throughout our diet. And then Bill said we did answer his question, so I guess we did right with Bill. All right, cool. So Bronwyn asked another one, and she said, is it more important during prep to time your meals perfectly around your workouts than in your off season? So let's talk about basically just meal timing in general and its importance.
Well, I mean, for me, if we're in an off season and we're doing it right, which means our calories are high, it differs from when we're even 6, 7, 8 weeks out from a show where our calories are lower. Glycogen, carbs specifically, are going to be a lot lower. And then I think it is important to time your meals more around when you're training. That's when they're important. But we're in an off-season setting and we're eating, say, 3,000, like for you, example, 3,000 calories a day. Not really going to deplete yourself. You're always going to have something in the tank. So I think it becomes more critical as your food gets lower, of course, because we're eating less food. But in a, from a food, there is no, hopefully we all know there's no magic anabolic window. You don't need to eat, 30 minutes after you train. That window is much larger than we thought even a couple of years ago.
Right.
So for me, opinion-wise, I don't think it's as important in an off-season setting. But again, as bodybuilders, we are creatures of habit, so we're probably going to do the same things anyway, probably just different quantities.
Right.
So off-season, I just don't think it's as important because we have an excess of calories to get through a workout without being completely depleted, as opposed to a pre-contest.
Right, absolutely. I agree with that too. And I will say I do tend to take it to the extreme, and I do kind of time out my meals in the off season too. But that's just me. I feel like I try to.
That's your habit. It's just what you do.
Yep. Right. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely do it in the off season. Now, do I get a little bit more lax on like the quantities in the off season? Absolutely, because once again, like you said, my personal calories in my off season, I'm actually dieting right now, but my personal calories get more towards 4,000 in the off season. So now that my calories are let's say I think they're at like 32. I'd have to do the math. I don't necessarily go off the calories. I just go off the set macros, and I haven't calculated it. But I do tend to space the majority of my carbs, especially pre-workout, and then post-workout. So those are the 2 times that I space my carbs. Do I necessarily time it out? Yes, I do, just because for digestion, especially in the pre-workout meal, I eat mine about, I would say, 2 hours before I work out. And then, like you said, I really don't time my post-workout meal just because that anabolic window is a lot longer than everybody expected. I mean, I do have a shake, and I was one of these guys that and I used to have a shake, and then I would have like a full meal right after that shake, even with another protein source. And I thought that's how you had to do it. And this is only probably in 2012. Yeah. So this is, 5-6 years ago. And now, I've gone, more recently, I wait an hour to hour and a half before I eat my next full meal, just because I do have a shake, and then I wait a little bit for it to digest. And then when I start to get a little bit hungry, I'm like, okay, I probably should eat something now.
Julie had a really good question.
Yeah. Let's see what Julie had to say. She's actually on an airplane right now, flying across the Atlantic Ocean. So it's kind of cool that she's tuning into this. Julie said, when a female is prepping, do you have any thoughts on when they should stop birth control, or thoughts on starting oral birth control while prepping? So Matt, go ahead and take the lead on this one.
I've had clients do this for reasons they had to go on birth control, or they had to get off of birth control. And it made, in both of those situations, it made it really challenging, because now we're messing with hormones, which they're out of our control. We can't do it there. So
right. I
think unless there's a really specific reason that somebody would need to get off birth control or on birth control, I just don't think I don't see any reason to do that from a prep standpoint. Even changing birth control messed up, and this was oral birth controls, because she asked about that. it did impact. We saw weight fluctuations. Weight went up. I think we could attribute it to that because nothing happened previous. Nothing, we didn't change anything besides birth control. So unless there's a health reason, I don't think there's any reason to change it because now you're messing with hormones, and it could take a little bit. It took probably 3 or 4 weeks to rebound.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, and especially, and we all know that during contest prep, our hormones are not the most stable things. So if we're throwing in, other things into the mix that are going to affect our hormones, I can never say that word, then, that's just asking for trouble, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, I would, not recommend switching anything. I would just try to stay, with the program there. Raymond asks, is 19 to 20 weeks enough time for contest prep to get into a shape for a newbie? Ray, I'll take the lead on this one. Matt's been taking the lead on a lot of these, plus it's a little bit easier question. So it just depends on what kind of shape you're currently in. The first show I ever did, I dieted for 3 weeks. And did I get into shape? I thought I came into pretty good shape, but once again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was 19 years old. My more recent preps are definitely a lot longer than 3 weeks. They're in the 40-week category, 30-plus week category. So it really just depends on what your current body composition is and what category you're looking to compete in. Obviously, the different categories require a different level of conditioning. So, I'd have to see what you're looking like, man. If you want to send me or Matt some pictures after this video, feel free, and we'll give you our honest opinion.
I don't know what Pete Fitchin's looking at, but it's some meat back there, Pete.
Oh, is Pete with us? Hey, look at that. That's funny. I think he means like I'm above your shoulder because you're above my right shoulder right now on my screen, but that's kind of funny. Pete, thanks for joining on, buddy. All right. Lydia asked, she's always asking good questions. She said, with an unlimited amount of time before a show, 2+ years, how many mini cuts or practice cuts would you put someone through to track what their body does with depletion? So basically, I think what Lydia was getting at was how many mini cuts would you do leading up to someone going to compete for a show if they have like an extended off season? So let's say like Lydia's going to compete in 2020. And right now she's in the middle of her off season. How would you approach basically keeping her in shape up to 2020, Matt?
I'm trying to think of a girl specifically right now. It's been, if we're talking 2 years, and I don't know if I think she framed the question, or you said, how will they respond to things during a prep? I don't know if I would even go that far.
Yeah.
I think over that 2-year time span, maybe 2. The one girl I'm talking about specifically, it's been about 1.5 years, and we are going to do her first mini cut. And the reason we're doing that now, and we haven't so far, is her weight hasn't escalated. It hasn't ballooned up. You did a post about gaining weight. Well, she's not gained a bunch of weight. Her food through the roof. I mean, we're talking like 400 carbs a day, and she's staying relatively. So we, as a client and a coach, we didn't feel like she needed a mini cut. She's got something coming up for her wedding, and she kind of see how she could look if we peeled off a few layers. But we're not going to go drastic. It's going to be like 8 to 10 weeks, and maybe it'll be a 10-pound deal, maybe a little bit less. I don't want to send her off to her honeymoon in a dieted state either, because I'm not going to know what to do with that food. So I would say in a course of 2 years, depending on the person, maybe 2, and maybe not very long either.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really agree with that. And especially, for bodybuilders, for physique competitors, anybody, our main goal should really be packing on as much lean tissue as possible. And people are constantly in these reasons to diet. One example, a prime example, I'll be going to it, is the Arnold Classic. And guys literally diet for the Arnold Classic to walk around the expo. And I think that is just the stupidest thing ever, because, why do you need to do that? It's not like you're going to be peeling your shirt off all the time. Sure, you might, go to the gym and hit a few flexes with your boys. But to diet for that, I mean, I can understand like dieting for a wedding. I can understand dieting for vacation. But there always seems to be a reason to diet. And really, and for example, I'll use myself as an example, and then you could give your thought on it. I've been roughly up until last year is when I started losing a few pounds just to get a little portion of the fat off. But I was in a surplus for 2+ years with no mini cut. So I was just, once again, letting my weight creep up slowly. Sure, did I gain weight? Absolutely. But I knew basically from stage to stage that it was going to be about 3.5 years for me. And I knew that I didn't want to waste my time mini cutting for no reason. Could I have for 8 to 10 weeks? Sure, why not? But it just didn't really fit I didn't have a good reason for it, so I just kind of kept it going. Obviously, you want to control the weight gain during that time, but I'm a fan of very, very long, extended surpluses just because that's when you're going to gain the most. Now, I know some people will say like, oh man, your insulin sensitivity gets messed up, and that's why you need a mini cut once a year. And I think, that may have some relevance, just so, you are, a little bit more susceptible to food, when you go to cut. But really, when you go to give yourself a big deficit, I feel like your insulin sensitivity is going to be just fine. If you're going from, like your client that we were saying, you were going from 400 carbs, and if you put her at like 300 carbs right away, she's probably going to drop weight. Her insulin sensitivity is not going to be messed up just because she's been at 400 carbs this whole time. So I typically like to see my clients go as long as they can until they really start getting fluffy or maybe feeling uncomfortable, and then that's when I'll consider, dialing them back. Cool. All right, let's see. I think Lydia might have asked another one here. Yep, Lydia asked, what is my favorite aspect or your favorite aspect about prep, both in my own prep and in our clients' prep? So I guess we'll start there. What is our favorite aspect of our own prep or our clients' prep? Go ahead, Matt.
The thing that I like about bodybuilding as a whole is the process of competition prep. Everybody because I'm a promoter and I make routines optional at my shows because I don't necessarily like the day of the show. It's cool and I like it, but the most fun for me is seeing, okay, this is what I did last time. Now, how far can I push myself this time? So bodybuilding for me isn't so much about the day of the show. The most fun I have is watching that change in myself on a week-to-week basis, and just I enjoy the prep. Essentially, not really. The day of the show's fun, but from the standpoint of getting to see everybody, I mean, they're like big reunions. So the most fun I have, what I love about the sport is the process itself. That's it.
All right, and I actually don't know this off the top of my head, and I think a lot of our viewers would like to know, just because I've really only been following you for a couple years now, and I don't know your history. But how many years in the sport have you actually been competing?
I started my first prep in 2010, the end of the year, and that just meant I mean I was like 240, and I walk around at about 200 now in the off season, but I was just a fat guy that went to the gym and lifted weights, right? So I in 2011, and then again in 2012 and 2013, and then I sought out Brian Ahlstrom, and he coached me for 2 seasons, and he made me sit out for a year, and it did my body good. So it's been since really to the end of 2010, and then I have been doing it ever since, pretty much.
Okay, cool. So I'm about the same. I started competing late in 2011. So what I'm getting at by asking Matt this question, how long he's been competing, and this is where I feel a lot of people falter, is like Matt was saying, he enjoys just the process of dieting, of seeing his clients diet and seeing them transform. If you only like the day of the show, then you're going to have a problem. Like if you only enjoy the 1 minute that you have for a posing routine on stage, that's going to be an issue because, you can compete a couple times a year, but it's literally minutes that you get to stay on stage. And, if you only like that part of the process and you hate everything else, if you hate cooking, if you hate doing the cardio, if you hate the weightlifting and you only like doing the stage, you're just not going to be able to stick around in this sport long enough to see progress, and you're probably going to get frustrated and quit because you just don't like everything. And that may be tough for some people to hear, but you really have to enjoy every aspect if you want to hang around for a few years. So obviously Matt's been doing this for 8 years now. I'm on my 7th year. So you really just have to enjoy all of it. And to answer Lydia's question, I feel like it's the same as just watching, the start to the finish and just everything in between. And that's why, shameless plug for my YouTube channel here, I'm doing weekly updates of my contest prep, just making sure I document the whole process, right? And Matt, you know me on a personal level fairly well, I would say, and you know that I tend not to sugarcoat stuff. Maybe people don't like us for doing that necessarily. We're not like all Mr. Positive. We just tell it like it is. And I want people to understand that and to be able to see the whole process unfold, at least from my perspective, and then in hopes that it could help other people along the way in their future contest
I
preps.
literally wrote the same thing down about what I like best about prep for my clients is watching people do, whether it's a bucket list thing or I want to compete at my next IPE show, is watching them do things they didn't think they could do. That's the most fun that I have.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll lead it off. Lydia's second part of her question. What is my least favorite or most difficult part of prep? So I would say the most difficult is just restricting yourself for that length of time. And it's not only a physical strain, but also a mental strain. And I remember last time, I didn't take the diet breaks that I am now, and I dieted for a lot longer than I wanted to. And at the very end, I just remember I was just on the couch, in the fetal position, just not wanting to move. And it was very taxing. And then to, try to have outside relationships from that contest prep is difficult. Obviously I'm married now. My wife is living with me. This is the first prep that I'm going to be going through. So I think just being a normal human as you're dieting is probably the most difficult part, and not shutting people out. And that's in my opinion, that's the most difficult. So what would you say, Matt?
Well, I think to be a bodybuilder, you have to like to lift weights. And before I was into bodybuilding, I was doing powerlifting. And I think the biggest thing for me, the hardest part is, or my least favorite part is the fact that when I get into prep, for a while, my weights that I can move go down. I mean, I can't deadlift like I want to. I can't squat like I want to. That's the hardest part, is realizing I can't go into the gym when I'm, 8 weeks out and do what I can in my off season. That's the tough. It's an ego, not an ego thing, but it's a humbling thing. But I didn't really know that, 7 years ago or 8 years ago. Now, okay, it's going to be expected. You're going to feel like a big wiener. So yeah, that's probably my least favorite part.
Yeah, I remember last prep, I just straight up quit bench pressing because I couldn't bench press 225 anymore. And for whatever reason, that in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I'm too weak to bench press 225 for 5. I'm just going to stop bench pressing and move to the dumbbells, because it was demoralizing. And it is. And I put up a picture the other day on Instagram. It kind of goes along with yours, is you just see yourself in a t-shirt just get smaller and smaller and smaller. And at the end of prep, this shirt, I guarantee I'll be swimming in it. It's a large. And, it's tough to watch yourself get weaker and smaller, in clothes. But then when you peel off everything, everyone's like, oh my God, you're looking so good. So, I mean, it is a double-edged sword. When you do go to diet down, yes, your strength does go down. Yes, you're not feeling as good. But, obviously, hopefully we're looking good as we're dieting down. Mediums. That is a very good idea. All right. Holly asked a couple of questions here. She asks, how far out do I prefer to start a contest prep diet for my existing clients? I'm sure it varies person to person, but in general, are you thinking like 20 weeks, 16 weeks, etc.? So Matt, what do you like to see, and how do you approach a contest prep diet for, let's say, someone that you're currently been working
Well, then
with?
it's a lot easier because we've been
Mm-hmm.
planning and leading up to it. But I can say that aside from Roger, who I think is still watching and commented earlier, Roger and I did a prep that was like 7 weeks, and that's ridiculous. Nobody does that. I mean, anyone. He's a genetic freak, and he works hard. But I think for the most part, I like the days of a 12-week prep from where I sit are kind of over. I just don't. I don't think there's enough time for most people. So we're talking about April and May shows right now. They're already started. So we're looking at 20 weeks.
Yep.
And but that approach can differ. So in that 20 weeks, I may have some people already doing cardio, myself included, doing cardio, and the calories are going to start to come down already. Whereas others, we're still notching the calories up, and there's no cardio. So I think it can differ, but my standard is about 20 to 24 weeks ish. And that kind of goes for existing and new clients. Really, if the new client is set up like I want them, with a decent calorie range, and they're not doing an hour of cardio a day. So if they're set up right,
Exactly.
Right, 20 to 24 weeks, something like that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I would say, roughly the same. If I'm going to have some diet breaks involved, I might push it more towards 30 weeks, and it's depending on the class. Like for a lot of bikini competitors, they tend not to get as heavy as, let's say, like bodybuilders. Like you said, you used to walk around at 240. I used to walk around at 210, and right now, like, my weight got up to, just over 200 pounds this off season. I wanted to keep it under control a little bit. So once again, like you said, if they're set up the way that you want them, it makes things a lot easier. So Joe asked kind of a follow-up question to Holly's, and it kind of goes hand in hand. So I do want to bring that up now. He said, how long do you like to work with a client before starting a contest prep? I think a lot of people decide to find a coach when they start prep from day one.
I saw that was interesting. It's like, okay, January 1st, I'm going to start my prep. Well, unfortunately, I don't know if you're this way. I know a lot of other coaches, their docket's already kind of full on January. They know who they're going to work with for spring shows. So, I don't like to say, oh, I've got a waiting list. I think that's silly, but it really, if I'm as a coach, if I'm full, I'm not going to take more clients just to make myself feel better that I have more clients. But to answer Joe's question, I like to work with clients as long as possible. So people coming to me now are looking at shows in October, and that's the awesome scenario. That's a great scenario because then you got time. So if we're talking about a prep for 20 or 24 weeks, let's back up 3 months prior to that, and that is an ideal situation for me.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and I really like, to work with somebody for sure at least 3 months, if not 6 months before a contest prep. And not only just so I get to know their metabolism, but also just to make sure that they are doing everything in their power to gain as much lean tissue leading into that show. So, for example, one girl that I've been working with, she actually asked us a couple questions. I won't name her directly. But initially, we were going to do a 6-month off season. And then I told her, we're going to look at you and reevaluate. And I always like to have these reevaluation periods where, I take their pictures from before and from now. And I say, yes, we can start a contest prep, or you know what, we need a couple more months to try to pack on a little bit more muscle. And that's exactly what we did. We decided to delay her contest season a little bit, and we went into another 3-month off season just to keep going. She's still going to compete this year. The goal was to compete this year, but why rush it? If you could, bring a better package by waiting a handful of months. And 3 months may not sound like a lot. She's a first-time competitor. She's relatively new to the sport, so her body is just responding very quickly. 3 months for us, and me and you, I'm talking about, is not going to do us a lot of good, just because we are at this point where we're highly trained, and it's 3 months of training is just not going to add that much more lean tissue. Sure, we could add some. But 3 months in the grand scheme of our lifting career is probably not going to help us more like it would help someone that's brand
I guess
new.
I'll preface it too with you know, a 24-week or 24-week or even longer prep. That's not them, you know. I do give diet breaks probably once a month, it seems like, where they can kind of just turn off their mind, and whether they go out with their husband or wife or whatever and just kind of breathe a little bit. Because it wears you down. It's called a grind for a reason. It can hammer you down. So during that time frame, there's definitely times where you can kind of take a little bit of a break from the mental day to day that you have to go through. So it's not all anguish. There's some diet breaks in there, or whatever you want to call them, to kind of help the brain refuel as well.
Right. And then I do want to ask one question. I just want to get your opinion on it. It actually wasn't asked in the thread, but this is my question to you, Matt. When you start somebody off on a contest prep, how aggressive are you out of the gate as far as like cutting their calories? Let's say, you know, you do have 24 weeks, you have, you know, 26 weeks, whatever, you have a half a year to work with them. How fast would you start cutting someone's calories?
A great example was a kid that I'm starting with. I'm going to send his plan out tomorrow. And he's real good, spot on with his macros, knows his numbers right off the bat. I won't change a whole lot of anything from the start. I just want to see. Honestly, I'm not going to change anything. His first week is just going to be really understanding the relationship him and I will have as we work together. And then, and we've got, this will be about a 19-week prep. And so the first week, nothing. Let's just get a good base. And I guess I'll preface it with too is, are his macros what they thought they were? Is he hitting what he really thought he was?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. And then it'll be very incremental. I don't like, I've never been a big fan of huge drops or huge spikes. Let's go real gradual. Or from the jump, really, really slow. And even the whole way, it's going to be this slow diagonal line down. I don't like the heart rate monitor.
Right.
And this
absolutely.
And
that's
same goes for cardio too. I don't think there needs to be. We don't bump from 20 minutes to all of a sudden we're doing an hour. I just don't think it's necessary.
Right. Yeah, it is a fine balancing act how much to cut someone's calories, and I do exactly the same like you do. No matter who I'm working with, whether it's an off season or a contest prep for that matter, the first like 3, 4, 5 days sometimes I have my client weigh in daily. And I want to see what their weight's doing along the way. Just like you said, are you actually hitting those numbers that you told me you were? Sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is hell no. So it's like more of a feeling out period. Like you said, it's a relationship building period where you get to go kind of back and forth over that first week just to see how things are going to play out. Obviously, if you see that he gains 3 pounds that first week, you're gonna be like, whoa, you weren't hitting those numbers before. Obviously you're eating a lot less. Or if you see a 3-pound loss, once again, that's when you could even give him more food right off the bat, and that's really the perfect scenario. All right, we have one more question that came through Facebook, and then of course, if anybody on this current live video has any more questions for Matt or for myself, feel free to get them in the comments, and we will get to them to close out the video. Holly asked, how do I judge how much cardio one needs while cutting, and at what point do you know if it's time to start incorporating cardio? Do you go off scale numbers, pictures, measurements on a weekly basis? So Matt, go ahead and take that one. What's your opinion?
I've done multiple preps now with I don't want the scale to be something that is a negative. So I've done, I don't know how many preps where girls don't even get, and I have a huge, my client base is very female dominant. So I say I have,
yes.
I've taken the scale away from people, or I have their husband send me their weight just so I know, but it's rarely a scale judgment call. It's usually a pictures. Because there's no scale on stage. It's all based on how are your clothes fitting, and what do we look like in pictures, really? And those are the two things I go on.
Yep.
And to go back to my previous answer is I never do I shouldn't speak in absolutes, but there's never a huge
Right.
Here's where we're at with cardio, and now we're just going to drastically escalate it. I don't do that either. It's just little
Mm-hmm.
increments. And she asked when to start or when to add more. And I do like, I told my clients, it was around Christmas. I told them I don't just want, here's my numbers for the week. Here's how my training went. Here's the cardio I did. And then I have no other context. Tell me how you feel. Are you tired? Are you lethargic? Or do you feel great? Those can play in a pretty big factor too. If somebody may need cardio and they just can't do it for some reason, well, then we needed some conversation. So I think it's a matter of how the client tells me they feel too. I love the more information we have, the more we can help. So I think it's more than the scale,
Yep.
more than how they look. It's a feel too.
Right, absolutely. And I think for me, at least at the beginning, when somebody starts a contest prep, like, obviously we're going to take pictures along the way, but I feel like, at least me personally, I rely a little bit more on the scale to start. And then as the prep goes on, I transition. Obviously, I still want to know what their weight is, but I transition more into pictures, if anything, especially those last, handful of weeks. Let's say like the last 6 weeks, it's going to be a lot more visually orientated than scale orientated. And then obviously like the last week, it's just, I don't really care what you weigh. It's all pictures. And especially the day of, especially if you're carving up, you're going to want to have pictures. You don't necessarily need the scale to dictate what's going on, because someone who has a trained eye like you do, you could see the visual changes. And I think that's where is one of the negatives of prepping yourself, or just being responsible for yourself, is that you may think you see one thing, but your coach who has a trained eye, they actually see another thing that's going on. And that's one of the tools that I've actually used in the past, and I'm sure you do too. When somebody starts questioning themselves, you like use the picture collage app or whatever, and you put like a picture of you, like, this is you 4 hours ago, and this is you now, and you look better now.
Yeah. And to add to that, she didn't mention it. I think it was a she that asked this. Do not go by what somebody measured your body fat. I hate body fat, and honestly, if it's a local client and I see them and they'll ask me to take their body fat, I'll do it, but I won't tell them, because let's just say 5%, even though that's really low and very few people care. But for simple math, me at 5% is going to look different than you at 5%. So why does it matter? And especially if we're talking bikini competitors, that range can swing 4 or 5 percentage points. So scales, one thing that I try not to look at a whole lot, but body fat's probably the last thing. I don't even care. I don't care.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've ever had anyone check their body fat. And some people have told me what their body fat was, and I'm like, awesome, like, good for you. And just because of the methods that are used, and I've done a little bit of research, a little bit of digging on it, and it's just how accurate like these methods are. Even the DEXA scan, which is like the tried and true method of testing body fat, even that's shown not to be 100% accurate. There's like, I think it's like a 3% error when it comes to the DEXA scan. So you could be 6%, you could be 9%, or you could be 3%. And 3 to 9% is a big range.
And if you want to know what your body fat is, that's cool. I haven't taken my body fat since 2011.
Yeah. I mean, I happen to have one of those handheld devices at the gym that I work at. So like every now and then I'll just be like, okay, what does it say today? And you could do it, 1 minute, and then you could do it 10 minutes later, and it'll be different. So it's kind of crazy just how actually inaccurate those things are. So yeah, body fat is the absolute thing that I actually don't pay attention to at all. Now she did mention measurements. Once again, that's not something that I pay too much attention to either. Me personally, like, I feel my measurements going down because like my pants fit looser, or like I have an Inzer lever belt and I have to physically move the lever down. So I know my measurements are going down, but that's not something that I'm like, okay, tell me how big your bicep is this week.
I like measurements for my clients that are not competitors. and
Okay.
that only because there's usually more room to wiggle. There's gonna be more change there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I could totally see how that is. And I do work with a certain amount of non-competitors as well. And you do have to treat them a little bit differently too. So I could see how, just the method that you approach it by choosing measurements, and I'm sure you choosing to look at the scale also with them is important. But, it is going to come down to, measuring their progress and steadily for that matter.
Somebody asked a question about posing suits. Did you see that?
Oh, you know what? It was probably Lydia, and I think I jumped over it. Let's see here. Because I know that she actually makes posing suits, so it was probably Lydia. Okay. All right. She said, how early do I recommend competitors getting fitted for their posing suits? Sorry, Lydia, for making you wait.
And the reason I brought it up is I actually reached out to good friends of ours that make suits as well, so I don't want to step on her toes if she does this, but the response to them the response I got back from them is we want them as close to stage. Again, we're going by weight because they do go by weight a little bit. As close to stage weight as possible, obviously, so it fits. About 2 to 3 weeks out is when they'll get fitted if they can. And the rentals for this particular company ship out on the Monday, the week before the show. I'm reading it off my watch, by the way.
I see that, yeah.
They get shipped out the Monday, a week before the show. That way, they're in good contest shape, and if something doesn't fit right, they can do a quick swap via mail and get.
Wow, that's awesome. And honestly, if you don't mind, because that sounds pretty badass. Maybe later on you could post like the link in the comments or something if somebody's interested. You could tell us what company that is right now. Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds great, and especially for like bodybuilders, and we were talking in our group page the other day for my clients. Bodybuilders tend to have it a little bit easier. Our suits are a little bit cheaper as far as like bikini girls and figure athletes and physique athletes. Obviously, you have to pay a little bit more, and especially you want them to fit right. So like Matt is saying, the closer you are to contest shape, if you're just starting your contest prep, you don't want to get fitted for a suit the first week of your contest prep. Make sure, you're losing a lot of weight. Ask your coach, roughly how many more pounds they think that you're going to have to lose. Or, and that may be a tough question, especially for people who have never competed before. For myself and for you, Matt, we roughly know what we're going to be on stage. And we probably know what our measurements are when we're all dieted down. So it's probably a little bit easier for us. But for someone who hasn't competed in a few years, or for someone who is brand new to the sport, getting a suit that fits properly, the best thing is to wait just to make sure that it fits, because I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it because you actually promote a show and you literally have hundreds of athletes that you deal with. The suit really can make a big difference on your overall presentation. And if it's not the right cut for the athlete, that also can make a big difference in how you're not only evaluated but judged and then placed at the end. And
if you get it too early, let's be honest, you're gonna feel it's gonna be like demoralizing. You think you're gonna look one way, and if you get it 6-7 weeks out, that's a lot of time to make changes, and you will. So it can be. That's why he specifically says they don't ship them out any earlier for the part, because it can really squash somebody's mental mindset too. So that's. I'll have my people order them or get their rental agreement set up and all that, pick out their color, but they won't get it until about a week and a half, 2 weeks, the Monday before the show. So in case they need to adjust stuff with this particular company, with Team Marie, they can make the swap and do it that way. And most companies, I think
that's really
that. I would hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. I actually didn't know that. And I could say firsthand it is demoralizing to put on, your posing trunks in your off season, just because obviously, like, I'm posting these videos, even though I've been dieting for a little bit. I'm still way more towards my off season form than my contest shape, and it is not the most fun thing to do, and especially put it out there for everybody to see. In my Monday videos where I do, training footage. Perspective and then posing at the end. I look at those videos. I'm like, damn, I need to lose some weight.
Thank you for putting it out there, man.
Yeah. But and the only thing that I've heard negatively of that is that I'm just too white. So evidently I need to hit the tanning booth a little bit so I could show my physique off a little better. But you know what? That was on my Instagram. Somebody told me I need to shave, and it's been colder than hell. I'm sure it is by you too, man. It's been, in the negatives here. And I said, I'm going to take all the insulation that I can get. Well, I think that about wraps it up, guys. It went 50 minutes, so almost made it to the hour. Matt, I just wanted to thank you once again, for taking the time, out of your busy schedule, taking an hour out of your day to deal with me. And I hope that all you guys, learn something from this. I really appreciate Matt's perspective. It's great to hear, another respected coach, give his opinion on certain subjects. I feel like for the most part, Matt and I agreed. We differed on a few things, but that's great. It's because it makes me think. Hopefully, it makes me a better coach, and it gives us a little bit bigger of an audience. That we got a lot of people tuning in. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Matt. You could go ahead and close out the video, buddy.
See ya.
Peace.